Okay, would you watch a Scooby-Doo movie if the whole plot of the Scooby-Doo movie was not solving a mystery, but it was the gang all getting ready for Fred and Daphne's wedding?
No.
That's the whole movie?
And Scooby's like the ring bearer, and like obviously Scrappy performs the ceremony.
I would watch a movie where they were all at a destination wedding and something went crazy.
wrong. Yeah.
They found a dead body before the ceremony.
And it was Fred.
But
But they found a Fred body.
But Fred wasn't actually dead. Which of the Mystery Incorporated gang is most likely to be Daphne's maid of honor?
There's only one other girl.
Velma, right?
It literally has to be Velma.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Now ask me who's going to be Fred's best man.
Is it gonna be Scoob or Shaggy?
It has to be Shaggy.
Because Scooby's the ring bearer.
Right.
Yep.
And Scrappy, and we're all agree Scrappy's performing the ceremony.
And I talked to someone the other day who said, "Can you please stop doing really long openings?" So I had to fast forward through them.
Did you really?
Yes. He was like,
Our openings are like a minute.
some of them are. Some of them we go.
The longest we've ever done is a minute 14.
Shut up. No, it's
Yes,
not.
it
I
is.
edit them. The longest we've ever done is a minute 14. Hey, whoever the heck you are, if you can't make it through a minute of us talking about Scooby wedding, Scooby-Doo, Mystery Incorporated, the wedding of the century.
Scooby, screw you. Hello and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk, a movie podcast where we give pumps and dumps. My name is Jordan Wonders, and today I'm your chunk.
I'm Doge, and are you ready for another chunk?
My name is David Blease, and I took out my hunk reactor.
Very nice.
Right?
That'll work. Well, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to keep this intro short and to the point. So today we're talking about Iron Man 3. And I'm just going to go ahead and slide it over like I'm curling. Olympics, everybody.
Olympics jokes.
To my friend Doge for a synopsis.
So Iron Man 3 picks up immediately after the events of the Avengers, with Tony suffering some pretty serious post-traumatic wormhole disorder.
Post-Tony wormhole,
Post-Tony
post-Tony stress disorder.
Post-Tony wormhole disorder. Can't sleep. He's compulsively making suits. I think in Avengers he was on the Mark 7 Iron Man suit. When we pick up this movie, he's on like 46 or something crazy like that. It's been about a year since the events of the Avengers.
That was 6 months.
It's been about half a year since the events of the Avengers.
Gotcha.
The nation is kind of in the grip of a terror crisis.
Yeah.
The Mandarin is an international terrorist who's been making threats on TV. And so this movie is kind of the story of Tony confronting the Mandarin, which we later find out some interesting things about the identity of the Mandarin.
Yep.
So
Sure. I think it's important, though, to frame this movie as almost Tony versus Tony in a way.
There's a big plot of that.
if we say that this is Tony versus Tony, though, then we're retreading the ground from Iron Man 2, and the story doesn't need to happen. That's something that I will get to at the point of this, but I feel like this movie is tough to analyze, tough to give a broad level overview because the story is so fragmented. Tony doesn't really have a very clear goal in this movie.
Yeah, but I feel like he's a different Tony. I don't know. I feel like when you change, it's possible to have new battles with yourself.
Yes, I agree. I think this movie doesn't really work as a standalone Tony chapter.
Right.
Like this is just a chunk of Tony's journey that we see overall in the movies. It's not a hunk of Tony's journey. It's a chunk of Tony's journey that we see overall through these movies, but it doesn't necessarily, there's not a clear beginning and a clear end for this section. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like a logical section to remove from the others.
Well, I think I agree with you in the sense of his goal in this, as he says, it's when he's getting interviewed, it's like good old fashioned revenge.
Right.
It almost starts because Happy almost gets killed in an explosion, and he wants to find the people responsible, which is the Mandarin.
But then at this point, we're 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Like we can cut those first 30 minutes and we don't lose anything from this.
So
movie.
I think the main conflict that you're dealing with is Tony versus Tony, but it's in Iron Man 2, which versus his immortality. In this, it's versus his PTSD,
Right.
and his fear of losing Pepper and everything that means anything to him.
The closest we get to any sort of thematic framing device is that opening voiceover where he says, "We create our own demons."
Yeah.
And so you can interpret this as the consequences of the past coming back to haunt Tony.
Yeah.
But that's Iron Man 1.
Speaking of that opening voiceover, did they just abandon that?
No, it's carried throughout the movie, and we contextualize all of those voiceovers in the post-credit scene.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Yeah, no, it carries throughout the movie. Like
Yeah.
we get it at at the beginning and at the end. It's kind of a framing device.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, it opens up. There is a flashback to the 90s. Is it?
99.
99?
Yeah.
Y2K.
Where he
New Year's Eve, 99.
he's old Tony, the Tony that we met at the beginning of Iron Man 1.
So
Or
young.
rather, young old
He's young
Tony.
old Tony.
Yeah, yes.
Young former Tony.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Happy is there. Pepper's there.
With a mullet.
Yeah, Happy's got a mullet. And he
Pepper's
meets.
not there.
She's not? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Pepper's not there.
I guess we can assume she's working for him, but she's not in that scene. You're right. He meets Killian, who is a
cripple or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he was disabled somehow
It's like
because
some sort of muscular
He
disorder.
walks with a very distinct limp
yeah.
and is a little hunched, I
and he
think.
has like bad teeth and stuff.
And
yeah.
he meets a botanist. Tony meets a botanist,
Maya.
who he wants
Maya
to
Hansen.
have relations with, and he's successful in that.
Yeah.
She talks about she's developing this new what is it?
It's like cellular regeneration, essentially.
Healing yourself, basically.
Yeah.
But there's somebody else at this party.
Yes, he meets the man who saved him in the
Jensen.
cave.
Jensen. Yep.
Which I love that
Yep.
touch.
And we get that it fulfills what we got in Iron Man 1. When
Yep.
Jensen's like, we met, remember? And Tony's
before.
like, I'm sorry, I don't. He's like, it was at a conference. He
was like, you were pretty
in
drunk.
Bern, 99, you were pretty drunk.
So good.
love
Yeah,
that.
it was great.
That's where Marvel really gets its stuff together. Is they know how to
Those
keep a
little bitty
storyline.
moments. Yeah.
Tony basically he leaves her in the morning, but he basically solves the missing puzzle piece for that technology.
Yeah.
Which allows her to hook up with Killian later and develop what is not a perfect cellular regeneration program.
Highly
but
flawed, actually.
enough to actually do what it's supposed to do, which is can grow back a leg, grow back an arm, but it also has side effects, which is you become like a lava monster and can self-explode.
Yeah. If you can't regulate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we learned that at the beginning, and then we catch up with Tony Stark having PTSD.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Here's I'm about to dump, but I have a question mark maybe before I dump.
Okay.
Because he has PTSD for going up the wormhole and almost dying and sacrificing himself. But I feel like this PTSD is like, it's really hitting him hard.
And like panic attacks and stuff.
Yeah, where I felt like, wouldn't in Iron Man 1, him getting abducted and almost tortured not cause that kind
My
of PTSD
interpretation was that what he's suffering from in Iron Man 3 is specifically because he thought that he had solved his danger problem. He thought that he had come up with the solution to him ever being in a life-threatening situation again. And he thought that with that suit, he could protect himself and the people that he cared about, at least up to a certain point. And then when aliens are brought into the picture and these otherworldly beings that can destroy whatever he cares about instantly, all of a sudden he realizes his suit can't cut it. And that's why we jump from 7 to 42.
Yeah.
It is Mark
because
42, isn't it?
I
Mark
think
40 something. I don't know.
7 to 40 something.
Yeah.
And I think it's because what he's suffering from is not necessarily, I honestly don't really even know if PTSD is the right word for it, so much as just anxiety attacks of no matter what I build, it's not strong enough.
Yeah.
And I think it comes more from a place of not feeling defenseless, because he felt defenseless in Iron Man 1. I think it's losing the defense that he felt like he had created for himself.
Well, and we talked in our Iron Man 1 episode about how everything he does from this point forward is built on Jensen's last words to him. He's like, don't waste it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I saved your life. Don't waste it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's exactly what you're saying, that like he realizes that no matter what he builds, it's not enough.
Right.
I was going to say something about that, but then I coughed and now I coughed out. I coughed my thought
You
out.
coughed your thoughts. It's fine.
I coughed out my idea.
It's gone.
So I do love seeing, again, like we've talked about in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the consequences of things happening in other movies. So the first time I watched this movie, I love being like, this is a different Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Because Iron Man 2 felt like an Iron Man 1 because he was dealing with his own immortality. So I felt like he didn't grow much. He reverted back to his old ways.
Yeah.
But this one felt like a different Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So I felt like this is the first movie we got where he was a different person.
Well, it almost felt, I'm going to jump way ahead just for this one specific observation, but it feels like we almost see him revert, not back to where he was in Iron Man 1, but back to where he was pre-Avengers there at the end of Iron Man 3, where he uses kind of ingenuity to win the day and like isn't afraid of making decisions or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and we can kind of talk broadly about the plot, and if you guys want to park anywhere. He goes to investigate this explosion that Happy was nearby, and Happy is injured. We see bits and pieces of the Mandarin having videotapes to America, basically saying, "I'm teaching."
Well, let's talk about why Happy's there. Because Happy's there because Killian comes to meet with Pepper,
Right.
And essentially wants to sell
Killian, who is hot now, by the way.
Yeah, hot Killian, hot Guy
And
Pearce.
I love Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Guy Pearce.
He's really good in this. He essentially wants to sell Stark Industries.
Yeah.
Wants to like partner with them.
Right.
Because we later find out he's working with Maya Hansen. She knows that Tony holds the missing piece of her equation that's going to stop the extremist soldiers from exploding.
Yeah. And Pepper says, although it's incredible, it's highly weaponized.
It's weaponized.
It could be highly weaponized, and so it's too much of a risk.
Love that.
And
we don't do that anymore.
so Happy follows him, and at the scene, he spontaneously combusts, creating an explosion.
Not Killian, a soldier. An
soldier.
extremist soldier. Yeah.
And Happy's put in the emergency room, and he's in critical condition.
Right.
Which then Tony gets pissed about and says, "Hey, Mandarin, here's my address. Come find me.
Make it happen kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Let's duke it out, me and you. This isn't politics. This is good old-fashioned revenge."
So how does the Mandarin plot fit into the Tony PTSD plot? You know what I mean? Because I don't necessarily see a connection between those. In fact, the Mandarin plot line feels like Tony running from what I mean. If we were to say the root cause of his PTSD, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, is the threats that he can stand no chance against, that he can't understand, that forces him to reframe his worldview. The Mandarin is not one of those threats. The Mandarin is Tony running from that problem and just throwing himself into another problem.
I think absolutely that's what it is. That's how I interpreted it. Is it in the Mandarin he saw somebody he could defeat. He saw a human person.
That's the reason he reacted that way.
I think it was that, and I mean,
plus the love for Happy.
well, the love for Happy, but then even on top of that, the Mandarin that they're presenting to Tony is the leader of the organization that kidnapped Tony in the first movie.
Yeah.
And so I think it's personal on multiple levels. So one, I think it's personal because this is a group that he thought he had wiped out. Two, they have hurt his best friend. And three, I think he is in the process of trying to almost pivot away from supernatural threats and things that are freaking him out. I think in the Mandarin at the time, he saw a threat that was human flesh and blood that he could blow up and say, good night, see you later.
And I think it's a distraction. I think it's a distraction from the PTSD.
Then is it not simpler to focus on just the Mandarin in this movie and leave? Like we can have bits of the PTSD
Is it
and
not
panic
his
attacks.
natural state to bow?
Isn't it easier though to focus on that? And because to me, the big problem I have with this movie is that if we spend the first, I mean, this is like 30 minutes into the movie before we get any kind of hint of a conflict between Tony and the Mandarin.
Yeah.
Personally, like that conflict lock between our protagonist and our antagonist, or at least the face of our antagonist for now.
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. Shane Black, his movies, what he the director of this movie, what he specializes in is sort of like mystery thriller, whodunit kind of situations.
Action comedy too.
Yeah. And if you look at this movie not as a comic book action movie, but as a mystery whodunit thriller, I would actually say that the structure holds up because what we have is a misdirect at the beginning of who the true villain is.
Yeah.
But actually, when in reality, the real villain is revealed to us in the first 30 seconds of the movie.
I agree. So we can have those 30 seconds and then cut out the first 30 minutes because we don't need, like, we can have the bits and pieces of them investigating and that kind of thing, but we don't need the Tony's compulsively making suits. Tony is stressed, anxiety, whatever, about threats that he can't fight. Because if we have those things in the beginning of this movie, then we have to land Tony at the end of this movie where we land him, which is accepting essentially his own mortality and the fact that there's going to be threats he can't face, having the arc reactor removed and that necessary next step, which doesn't fit with the Mandarin story. These are two different stories.
But I don't feel like I don't feel like the overall conflict is about his own mortality. I feel like that was Iron Man 2.
Then his own lack of control, I guess.
I think that's more what it is. Yeah.
Then I think that's a story like if this movie is a sandwich, the bread does not match the meat in the middle. Like the bread that we get is a story. It should be the last Iron Man story.
Right.
Like you have the arc reactor removed. That should be the last Iron Man story. When
Right.
he says, this is behind me. I'm learning to accept the things I can't control.
Right. I think that what we're seeing is the marriage between the Shane Black style of mystery whodunit and the pre-existing superhero story. And so because of that, I think, I would argue that we do actually, as an audience, need to see Tony struggling at the beginning and need to see Killian coming in and pitching his idea. I just think that it's kind of a messy marriage between two different.
I think it weakens both.
Yeah,
I think they're
would
both
say
strong
that
ideas, and I think it weakens both of them.
Yeah, I think alone they're great styles of storytelling, and when mashed together, it loses some of what makes them both great. Yeah. But I wouldn't call it a failure either.
No. It's definitely an entertaining movie,
Sure.
and I obviously liked it much more this time than I did the first time.
Sure.
Just weird thematic shifts.
And it causes weird pacing too.
Yes, exactly.
Because of the necessity to retain mystery, but also the necessity to exposit character information.
We have to remain mystery, but also it's a superhero movie, so there has to be like at least 3 or 4 big action set pieces. So,
which actually brings us to the house action set piece.
Yeah, which is where we are now.
Pretty dope.
So, because when Tony leaves the hospital,
the house. Are you talking about Tony
his
Stark's
house? Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So Tony gets back to Malibu.
Sure.
And Pepper's there, and then the botanist comes in. What's her name again? Maya comes in and says, basically you don't know who you're dealing with. Like, let me help you.
Yep.
And
Tony's Tony and says, nah.
Yeah. And then some of Killian's men come in helicopters and missile launch the entire house, which you get one of the most incredible scenes in this movie and MCU up to this point where he throws the Iron Man suit onto Pepper.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
That slow-mo explosion of it like forming onto her. Yes. Oh, it's so cool.
And then when she gets outside and safe and he calls it back to himself and it's coming off of Pepper. And you're like, go.
That's a really, really awesome sequence.
The Iron Man suit becomes more of a character almost in this movie.
Well, what that does to me is it allows Jarvis to become more of a character.
Yeah.
Because it allows the Iron Man suit to have some agency on its own.
Yeah.
Because Jarvis can be in control of it, which I think paves the way for Vision.
Yeah.
Which is one of the cool. Yeah.
Vision freaking rules.
Where this is one of the coolest scenes that we get in the movie, and it was in the trailers, and it was kind of like the pivotal moment of the breaking point for Tony, where I really think the movie kind of starts.
Yeah.
Because I think the model for this movie was let's take the suit away from Tony.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that so much.
That actually is my super pump, is how much of this movie Tony is just Tony.
Yeah.
Because we see scrappy in a cave box of scraps Tony again. We see Tony just say, here's what I need, let's do this. And I love
Tennessee with a Hello Kitty watch.
Yeah,
exactly. It's Dora the Explorer.
So good.
Yeah.
And also my super pump was honestly almost his relationship with the kid.
Yeah.
Specifically focused on that watch.
Yep.
How much he feels the responsibility for that watch is so funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's also really sweet.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
But I think the whole structure of this movie was we got to take the suit away.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Iron Man pop up in multiple movies now, and he's Iron Man.
Yep.
And we need to get back to Tony Stark.
Who's Tony? Yeah.
So the suit goes under. He almost dies. The suit launches him to
it's Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's a flight path that Jarvis had put together when Tony was investigating the heat signatures of the extremis bombs.
So
it was one of the soldiers that had lived in Tennessee.
So he basically goes to the crime scene of the extremis bomb.
But is now stranded at the crime scene, essentially.
Where
and everybody thinks he's dead. That's important.
they think he's dead because the Iron Man suit shuts off. He has no way of communicating with anybody. He has to pull it in the snow, which I think is dope.
Anybody else get kind of sad when Jarvis basically passed out in the suit?
I think I need to sleep for a while.
I was just like, Jarvis, no.
No, Peter.
A pretty big plot hole, though, and I think a lot of people have talked about it, which I think will be my super dump, is fast forward to the end of this movie, the climax. He says, he tells Jarvis to open the, what is it called?
Order 66, Call of the Jedi.
Celebration.
Okay. He's got 2, House Party Protocol,
House Party.
which launches all the suits, and then Operation Clean Slate, which fireworks all the suits.
House Party.
Yeah.
He says, operate House Party Protocol. And all 40 of the suits, which are incredible and they're dope and everyone's different. Love that.
Gosh, I love that.
I think it in going back and knowing that was going to happen, you created kind of a, like we've talked about, a superhero trope where it's like, well, where was that power in the opening scene? I think that left me saying, wait, where was the house party protocol when the house was destroyed?
Yeah.
Where was the house party protocol when he saw the helicopter coming? Where was house party protocol when he was about to die in the bottom of the ocean? He was like, this is my only suit.
Completely. Yeah.
So it kind of creates that false sense of high stakes.
Yeah.
Of like, this is his only suit.
I totally agree.
He's about to die.
Yeah. Doesn't
But then-
necessarily hold up.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up. So that was my super dump going back and watching it.
Yeah.
Although the first watch, you kind of forget.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, all of the suits.
It doesn't quite hold up. It still completely works for me though. I love that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. The reason it happens doesn't work. I completely agree. Watching the battle though with all the suits,
Oh, yeah. And I think,
it's so cool.
because I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
But I feel like a team of writers could have figured out a way to make that house party protocol not functional yet.
I think
Yeah,
the
I mean, I
easiest
think
thing
all
would
you
have
do
been
is show him in Tennessee in the kid's barn, like working on his computer, like Jarvis, upload this protocol.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that this is.
And
in
I
the
was thinking
system.
of having basically someone go into the ruins of the house and Tony's talking to them,
has to
talking
start
them
it up.
through it to start
Yeah.
it
or
up.
something. See,
Something like that.
all I was thinking was maybe have remains of the house fall on the door and the door won't open. Something even that simple where he tries to use it.
That'd
Point
be cool.
being,
He tries to use it, yeah.
and it just
Yeah.
won't open. Point being, any number of ways that could have been rectified and just kind of wasn't.
Yeah.
So-
Which Marvel's pretty notorious for just throwing out little
Wasn't that cool?
Yeah.
And first watch, everybody's like,
Yeah, it
and others
was.
like, but it didn't.
Why didn't you do
make
that
sense,
before?
though.
Yeah.
So he's in Tennessee. He's at the scene of the crime, realizing this is not a regular bomb because there was no
Didn't have a shadow.
Yeah, there's no,
it wasn't
there's
like
no shadow.
burned.
There was no actual explosion.
Which, of course, Tony is like an arson detective too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's another thing where it's just like, how does he know that?
He went to MIT, so like chill out. But then he meets with the soldier who combusted
the
his
mother.
mom.
Yeah.
His mom.
Yeah.
And she basically says, like, they're trying to cover this up.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not the truth. And then he runs into two of the henchmen who are also...
Well, he realizes that she wasn't there to meet him.
She was there to meet with the henchman.
They're gonna take her out.
Yep. So there's that big battle, that big fight.
Big ba-
There's that big battle.
There's that big battle at the bar.
Big battle, isn't it?
Yeah, so they battle at
See
the
what
bar.
happens.
See what happens.
And that's kind of the first fight scene that we get where Tony is without his suit.
Yeah.
And he has to figure out a way to get rid of them with just pipes and ovens and...
I love that.
Yeah, it's
so
a cool scene.
Yeah.
you get to decide if we have the same super pump. Because going into this discussion, I had planned on my super pump is the mechanic, essentially the character of that Tony presents himself to the kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can call me the mechanic, which is that like he makes all the gadgets and like is really like just essentially budget Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that so much. I think that works so
cool.
well. Tony demonstrates such great capability and you have to have that in a protagonist. So that's
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
I would say we have overlapping super pumps because mine encompasses more than that.
Yeah.
See, mine encompasses less than that because I was trying to keep a
sneaky boy.
just a scene.
Get at it.
My super pump is Iron Man 3, Kevin McAllister all grown up, where he goes to the mansion with nothing but Home Depot light bulbs and
Yeah, I do
self-made
kinda love that.
glove.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think what you're talking about is we need to know that Tony Stark is more than the suit.
Yep.
And the reason he even has a suit in the first place is because he's Tony Stark, and I think we can forget that.
Guys,
Yeah.
What?
tone alone.
Tone alone.
I was going to say at the Mandarin's home alone.
Tone alone is...
At the Mandarin's home alone. Yeah, we all agreed on
No,
that.
tone alone. You're right. Tone alone is way better.
At the Mandarin's home alone is
Well, and another thing, so we find that scene when he's sneaking into the Mandarin's house. He's located the Mandarin, and he basically just has to deal with like 40 henchmen with no suit. And you get a pretty big scene where he finally locates the Mandarin, and you have probably what is the biggest twist in this movie, which is the Mandarin's not the Mandarin.
Yeah.
He's a British guy named Trevor.
Trevor Slattery.
Which I thought was super funny, but I was a little bit disappointed because I thought he was a pretty cool villain that was kind of wasted.
The first time I saw this movie, that 100% kept me from liking this movie, and it kept me from rewatching it.
Really?
But knowing that's coming, it doesn't bother me as much.
Sure.
And I think it still bothers me. Like I still hate that we're not going to get the Mandarin in the MCU.
Yeah.
Which does suck. And so I was explaining it to my wife when we watched this the other night of like, that's a great reveal. It's a great twist and it works really well.
Yeah.
But imagine a Batman movie where the Joker's the villain and then we find out all along it's not the Joker. It's just an actor that the Penguin hired.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't quite work because of who the villains are.
Yeah. It's one of Iron Man's greatest villains. And it's Ben Kingsley, and he kind of killed it.
Ben didn't just kind of kill it.
Ben Kingsley crushed it in both roles, Mandarin and Trevor Slater.
Yeah,
it's true.
He was so
He
good.
was funny as
when
Trevor.
he falls asleep mid-interrogation. I lost it.
Yeah.
He's so good.
But yeah, I think we did get a little bit of a wasted villain.
Yeah.
However, it made sense if this, for someone who didn't know comic books or didn't know who the Mandarin was, it was just a great twist.
Yeah.
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 Because you realize he's not the one pulling strings.
Yeah. And I think if we can, that's one thing where our pre-existing knowledge might be a bit of a disadvantage to us in terms of evaluating this movie. Like if we can separate ourselves from knowing the history of Tony and the Mandarin and the 10 Rings of Power and all that stuff, then like, I think we could really enjoy that
Well, I
element.
also think that's why it was something you said earlier, when Marvel uses these B-class, C-class superheroes that not many people know about.
Yeah, 100%.
It makes it more enjoyable because if you make Peter Parker fly rather than swing, we're like, hello, read a comic book, but you make Black Panther do something that we've never read before. You go against his canon. I don't know a lot about Black Panther, so I'm like, oh, that was dope.
Yeah.
I had no idea that's, or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, well,
I'm not like, Groot is supposed to have 3 branches going out of his face. I'm like,
Yeah,
nah, I
Sure.
don't care.
Well, to me, I think the best example would be like Ant-Man. Like I look at something like Ant-Man where he's Scott Lang, who I know was Ant-Man in the comics, but maybe not like
Not famous. He's not
not
famous
the
for being
famous. And I'm just like,
him.
that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least it's Paul Rudd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Because we don't care about as much about Ant-Man as we do about Spider-Man.
I think Iron Man 3 and this Mandarin twist was the point where people who had been reading comics for a while kind of had to realize that this is not, we're not literally like reading a comic book and going, okay, film that scene.
Sure.
Like, we're to regard this as an alternate universe in the same way that the Ultimate Universe is different from the 616.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is I think a lot of time, and this happens all the time with books that get turned into movies or like comic, anything. What happens is the source material, at least for me, I always picture it as it's created this rut or this track that the movie, I always picture it like an ice luge for drinks. And I'm going to pour the drink down this ice luge. And then the movie does something and it goes down a pathway that I didn't drill into my brain ice. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's like, I have to be like, whoa, everything I thought I understood is wrong. And so I think that's when I can sometimes mistakenly interpret that feeling in myself as not liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a
Without
good point.
realizing that it's just like, no, it's just not
just
what I
different.
expected.
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
Yeah. Because the trailers like vehemently were like, this is
Really
a
hit home that
Mandarin
like
movie.
this is the Mandarin.
Well, and that's a big thing I think for me now that I honestly feel like I learned at Iron Man 3 and kind of this era of Marvel when they were really into the big pivot. Like that was their whole thing.
Yeah.
Something I learned was like not lower expectations, just try to have none.
Yeah.
Like I still want it to be good, so not lower expectations and accept a
quality,
subpar
not
movie.
quality.
Yeah, not quality, but
Just content.
go in with no story expectation.
Yeah.
Which is
Hard to do.
getting harder now that
very hard to
we're
do.
around Infinity War, but we'll get there. Ugh.
So he breaks in the house. He finds out that's not the Mandarin, and gets kidnapped by the Mandarin, or by the real Mandarin, which is what's his name, Killian.
Killian. Yeah.
And Killian also kidnaps Pepper Potts, injects her with the extremis, and says
Exploder juice.
she's about to die unless you complete the formula to get extremis perfected. And then Maya turns on Killian and says, no, I'll kill myself if you don't let him go. And then he kills her. So she has a
Shoots her right in the
redemptive.
forehead.
I got really annoyed with Maya's double turn, by the way.
Okay, you want me to tell you my super dump for this movie?
Yeah.
Excuse me. I let the record state that I hate this element of this movie. My super dump for this movie is that Maya Hansen was supposed to be the main villain. Have you guys read this?
No.
Maya Hansen in the original drafts of this movie was the main villain. And
Really?
I'm not clear if those drafts included the Mandarin twist or if the twist was the Killian was the face, but Maya was the villain. Marvel said no to Shane Black. Shane Black wanted to make her the villain. Marvel said no because I'm not sure that kids would buy Maya Hansen action figures.
That's annoying.
And so Shane Black has gone on record saying that and saying like,
Wow.
this is the worst thing Marvel's done to me personally. This is a horrible thing that's happened. And
I can see that being a big old twist.
Yeah.
Marvel got a lot of heat for that. And watching this movie, Maya Hansen would have been such a more compelling antagonist.
Yeah.
And it would have been really, really awesome to see Killian kind of be the main face.
Yeah.
Maya Hansen is the twist, and then we could save the Mandarin for later and have the real Mandarin.
Yeah.
Oh, I was trying so hard to let you finish that sentence before I sneezed. Oh, my brain hurts. Oh, I was literally just like, yeah, okay, sure, yep, absolutely.
So we've kind of skipped over a small story arc in this movie, which is Rhodes is in this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
love him.
He goes from a War Machine to the Iron Patriot, which he says tested well in like public questionnaires.
Yeah.
Like public questionnaires tested really well, and so his War Machine went from that awesome gray metal to red, white, and blue with a little star.
Basically,
on the chest.
Iron Captain America.
Yeah.
Which in the comics, that suit is worn by Norman Osborn,
Yeah.
the Green Goblin. There's a point in time when the government says we
For
need
the Dark Avengers, right?
Yeah, it's the government essentially says we need our own Avengers, and Norman Osborn is like, hey, I'm a good guy, I'm reformed, I'm not the Goblin anymore. Give me a suit and I'll lead a team. And so they put together the Dark Avengers, which is like, it's like Norman Osborn as Iron Patriot and
Agent
like
Venom, right?
Agent Venom's not on that, but Venom
Regular
is on that.
Venom, yeah.
Wolverine's evil son clone, so it's like kind of dark doppelgangers of the original Avengers.
like some kind of Suicide Squad.
What are we, some sort of Dark Avenger squad?
So after this, the president gets kidnapped, and you realize that the vice president has a daughter who is
an
without a
amputee.
leg.
Loved that reveal.
That was a great reveal.
I forgot about that reveal.
Yeah.
And on watching it this last time, I was like, oh, it's so good.
It ties
Yep.
together really well because he's going to have the new president in his pocket.
And it's the quickest way to humanize a character and show motivation. I mean, in that moment, I understood it. I understood everything I needed to know.
And we don't
about
back down on that. We don't need to spend a bunch of time on that. We don't have to have the vice president.
You don't have to
like,
learn
and they
who he
didn't
is.
though.
secret meetings. Yeah, no, it's so great.
That's really good.
Yeah.
They didn't have to explain like who is he though? Like,
Yeah.
like what's his deal?
It was just boom.
Yeah.
And we as an audience said, I get it.
No, we said shoot.
Yeah, you're right. I was just like, oh no.
So basically, cut to the end. They kidnapped the president. They tie him up in the Iron Patriot, which is rendered useless.
Use some real bad CGI to put President Ellis's face in that.
Oh, I'm
Iron
sorry. Is
Patriot
that
suit.
another? We need a horn. Is that another example of floating head syndrome?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, Marvel.
But
It's not good in that one.
for some reason, though, in this movie, watching Iron Man 3, my super dumps and pumps weren't on story arc or character. They were on scenes. So my super dump being where was Protocol House Party.
yeah.
And my super pump is the plane scene.
Oh my gosh, that plane rescue.
Oh,
Love
dude.
that
Amazing.
scene.
Everything about that scene is perfect.
It is so
from,
good.
From the rescue to the truck at the end.
Yep.
That reveal with the truck at the end. Even again, this time
yeah.
I was just like, oh,
And they shot that with actual skydivers.
Wait, really?
Like 15 times.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
And they had to just CGI remove their packs.
Yeah.
And one of them is Iron Man. And so all of those scenes are not only like genuine people falling, but just how he gets everyone, how
It's
he
amazing.
monkey in a barrel,
Yeah.
everybody. And at the very
That
end,
little skim.
he crashes and he comes out of the bathroom. He's like, oh.
Yeah.
And you realize he wasn't in the suit the whole time.
So good. Which reveals so much like unheard of power in Iron Man, the character for us now. Because we know like Tony can basically do anything from a distance remotely.
Why does he ever get in the suit again?
That's a great question. And
That's why I don't like that reveal.
I think they should place limitations on what it's capable of doing without him in it.
like it's like Bluetooth, like it's good for like 50 feet.
Well,
Either-
he uses a lot in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Either you,
does.
yeah, he does. Either you,
Then why is he in this? Why is he ever in an Iron Man suit after
Yeah.
that? You know what I mean? Why is he physically in the Iron Man suit anytime we see him in Age of Ultron, or in
Ultron,
Civil
yeah.
War?
And why can he not control multiple then? Or I guess he can.
Can he?
Well, here's the other thing. This is a problem for me. House Party.
yeah,
All of those Iron Men are fighting.
sure.
So basically, if Tony Stark is getting back to work, which we can assume he is after Iron Man 3 into Age
Getting
of
back to
Ultron,
work as in making more suits.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't we have in Age of Ultron, why don't we have in Infinity War just a army of Iron
No,
Men.
I know.
We do in Age of Ultron, the Iron Legion,
Yeah, but they're
peacekeeping
not
drones.
fighting at the end.
because Ultron like hacked them. Ultron has controlled them.
That's a good point.
Well,
Because
and Age
that's
of
the thing
Ultron
with-
actually does kind of. Age of Ultron's kind of the reason that discontinues as well, because they see the
Because it's
dangers of it.
Jarvis.
That's problematic.
It's Jarvis controlling these suits in the House Party Protocol.
Right.
That's good. That's a good call.
Yeah.
Okay, so see now I'm good, and now I
you
can
love
keep
it.
going.
But actually, so during this final fight scene at was it an oil rig? I don't remember.
It's a
shipping-
Roxxon oil tanker.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That spilled oil in
Obviously,
the
an
Gulf.
analog
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Exxon, but
Yeah. Well, Roxxon's a company in Marvel Comics. Has
Right.
been a company for
Right.
a long time. Yeah.
right. But that incident is obviously an analog for Exxon. But my super dump, and I'm going to be just as surprised as you guys are that this is my super dump, I think. But this is where I've landed. My super dump is that Pepper lived.
Yeah.
I think it would have been so much more powerful if he lost her in that final fight.
Yep.
And because I think that would give us a reason for, like you were saying, like, why does he continue to build suits? Why does he continue to fight? What's the point? Like,
Yeah,
why
that's good.
isn't
Well,
this
and it's
a
clear
closing
that
of
it's
an
clear
arc?
that from here on they don't know what to do with Tony and Pepper
Yeah.
because they change their status.
They flip flop like status.
Status is like a really
Their
cool way to
status.
say that.
Yeah, status is like how
status.
British people say it.
Their,
Yeah.
their status changes in every movie
Wildcat.
after this.
German.
Is that a Wildcat? Say their status changed Wildcat form.
Their status changes.
Yeah, you're right. That's Wildcat.
Every movie after this one? No, every movie after this, they're like flip flopping back and forth. Like,
Yeah.
are they together? Are they angry at each other?
Will they? Won't they? We
Yeah,
were on
yeah.
a break.
But it's
Ross
not,
Rachel.
But they don't even show it. They just have like one line to
Yeah.
show you where they are.
Exactly.
Which Marvel's done that a lot because there's so many moving pieces. They have to just be like, oh, Jane's not with me anymore. All right,
Yeah.
Thor 3.
Yeah.
Pepper's total screen time moving forward from Iron Man 3, I think, rounds out at about 6 minutes.
If even that, the
Yeah.
only thing she's in after this is
Homecoming, maybe?
Does she get Extremis removed from her?
She does, yeah. Tony mentions that in the voiceover.
He
Because
takes Extremis out, and then he
because
gets the arc reactor out.
he gets the arc reactor
So they
removed.
both have surgeries where things are removed.
Yeah. Which is why this has to be
Seems.
the last story. Like this really, really does have to be the last story because Tony has his arc has completely landed from
His
Iron
arc
Man 1.
reactor has completely...
It has to be the last Iron Man story because anything we do after this, when Tony says the suits were pulling me away from the people I love, I can't do the suits and be a real person. We can't have him ever make a suit again after that without invalidating this lesson.
But
Yeah.
I think he does invalidate the lesson. Like, I think that's almost the
That's
point.
why he loses Pepper.
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good. That's a good.
How
point.
does he get her back? Like they don't know what
we
to
don't,
do.
we don't
with
know how he
Tony
got her
after
back.
this.
We know how he lost her because he mentions in.
I think more importantly, they don't know what to do with Pepper.
Yeah.
That's why I think she should have died at the tanker.
Or
Yep.
kept Extremis and been a superhero.
Been a superhero, except like,
Who would want to watch that?
yeah.
Yeah. That's actually one of my least favorite elements of this movie is that Pepper becomes
Get
a superhero for
superpowers
like
for-
Well-
because the secret act, I guess 4 secret superpower is superpower girlfriend now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was confused the first time that Killian, throughout this whole movie, we've seen all of the Extremis people fight. And they
Right.
have it's mostly just indestructible.
Right.
Yeah.
They were regular fighters, they're indestructible. And then like 2/3 into the movie, he goes
It breathes
and
fire.
breathes fire, and you're like, what? When did this come?
To be fair, love that Rhodes comment on it. Like, I love that Rhodes
breathe
like, you breathe
fire
fire now. All right.
All right, okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Callie was watching with me, and she goes, literally 1 second before Rhodes said it, he goes, "Bah!" And Callie goes, he breathes fire now? And then Rhodes goes, so you breathe fire now? And Callie looks at me and goes, yeah!
But as a story, I felt like, what?
It's weird.
Yeah, no, completely.
I didn't care for that.
No.
But you gotta have that fireball shooting Killian action figure, right? You gotta have that scene.
They're just a little heated about the whole action figure thing.
And I'm not heated. He's just breathing hot fire.
Nice.
Super hot fire.
I am a fan of Killian, the character, and I'm not a fan of Killian, the fire laser villain.
It's almost like he was originally conceived to be a face for the main villain.
Right. Strange how that works.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
And
we did
also, sorry, the girl who plays Maya, Rebecca, is it Johnson?
I'm not sure.
She's really great. She's the girl from the town.
Oh, yeah,
she's
she's awesome in The
fantastic.
Town.
And so she could have, I think, killed like a
could've done
really
the villain.
dark.
She could have totally done the villain.
Yeah.
She could have done a great job. And it's studio interference that I think Marvel has kind of backed down on, especially
agree.
these Phase 3 movies. They're like, whatever, like John Watts, you want to make Ferris Bueller's Day Off starring Spider-Man? Do it.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi, you want to make What We Do in the Shadows starring Thor, you do it.
I don't know if it's that parallel, but yeah.
But essentially, just like you bring your own style to
Sure,
this,
yeah.
and I
feel
think it
free
was
to get weird with it.
because of the heat that they took for this.
And I think
this
Iron Man
switch.
3 and even Thor the Dark World both kind of fall in, because what's after the Dark World? Is it Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
So for some reason, because Winter Soldier, in my opinion at least, obviously like is ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World are almost these two movies that I've probably seen the least of any other movie in the MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they fall into this realm of like, they're not terrible.
They're super entertaining,
And
actually.
Iron Man 3 is definitely not terrible. No. But they almost are like these movies where it's like you had to have these mistakes to learn these things moving forward of like
Yeah.
give creative control over, give, each movie its own voice, its own taste, its own scent and aroma.
Well, I feel like the action figure does play a piece in both Iron Man 3 and Dark World.
Yeah.
Because I feel like both of those movies are just superhero movies.
Yeah.
I feel like we really go back into the action is the best parts of the movie. The character development is kind of like,
yeah. Winter Soldier was when they started to get super character driven.
yeah. And Winter Soldier, was that after Thor 2? Okay, so then I guess that might be something they've learned.
Yeah.
Or they learned in that process.
Phase, what is this, phase 2?
Iron Man, yeah. We're
Iron
currently
Man
in
3
phase three.
begins phase 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And phase 2 is Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World,
Winter Soldier,
Winter Soldier,
Age of
Guardians,
Oh yeah.
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron.
Ant-Man.
and Ant-Man.
Yes.
That's all phase 2. It is so clear to me that Winter Soldier, like I would say that Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World are almost their own phase.
Yeah.
And
Winter
it-
Soldier was a complete tonal shift.
Winter Soldier set the bar for the rest of these
Winter
movies.
Soldier
moving
is
forward.
also the moment that Joss Whedon became fully out. Not necessarily fully out, but like out of the seat that he was in. And the Russos took
stepped
over.
in, and thank God for the Russo
We can't
brothers.
say enough good things about Anthony and Joe Russo on
Between
this show.
Community and the MCU
And Arrested Development.
and Arrested Development,
Yeah.
I'd kiss them both on the mouth.
Yeah, they can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's great that you mentioned that this is phase 2 because I want to begin a small shout out segment that we'll do on every phase 2 episode of this show. So
Without talking to us.
without talking to you guys, yeah, surprise. What happens to Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back?
Sorry. I thought that my like almost only responsibility for this show was programming and coming up with new bits. Is that
happens-
not me?
What happens to Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back? What happens to his hand?
His hand gets ripped out
It's
of his
gone.
face.
And that's the second Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
yeah. Wait.
In the real world,
Yeah, in the
not
way that
in
they
Star
created
Wars
them.
land. Yeah, second Star Wars. So as a kind of reference to that, in every MCU movie,
Yeah.
somebody loses a hand. Somebody
What?
gets their hand slapped
In phase
Just-
2?
Just knocked right
you know
off.
that?
Yeah, did you not know this?
No.
Yeah,
A character always gets his hand
every
cut
single
off.
phase 2 movie, a character gets his hand cut off.
Are you serious?
Yes, 100% serious. And in this one, it's Killian in that final fight.
Yep.
He gets his hand cut off like right at the elbow, and it extremisses back.
Yep.
I can't believe you didn't know this.
I genuinely
Dude,
did not.
we're
We're
gonna-
gonna point it out everyone, right?
We're gonna point out everyone.
I'm gonna be watching these movies like a hawk.
We're gonna change your whole
Yeah.
world.
My favorite's Age of
Like a
Ultron.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, the Age of Ultron one's my favorite.
Like a Hawkeye, guys.
I get it.
Like a
Like a hot guy? No, you're the chunk.
So we're at this final battle scene. He's with Rhodey, and he says, "Operate House Party Protocol," and we have another incredible scene.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good.
The action in this movie is really great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
it really is.
I think it goes back to it's a superhero movie, like
Yeah.
the epitome of a superhero movie.
Yeah.
And all of those scenes where you got the big blue one who's just like running like a tank. You
His
have the
name's
really skinny
Igor.
ones.
Is that
Igor.
that a precursor to the Hulkbuster? We think. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what I thought
totally.
as well.
And Rhodey's like, "Give me one of these," and he goes, "Sorry, they're all programmed to my body." And he's the only one that can use them. So Rhodey's got to go and get the presidents.
And I love that his first words once he gets the president down, he goes, "I'm gonna need that suit though." Oh, Rhodey is so
yeah, Don
good.
Cheadle's really great in this.
Oh my gosh.
We have that battle scene. We lose Pepper in the fire.
Yep.
Don't worry, though.
Yeah. Then Tony's trying to beat
Killian.
and then at the very end of the day, Gwyneth Paltrow shows up. Now she's a fire breather.
Sure, naturally.
She fights Killian, throws a grenade bomb thing in him, lonks him in the suit, fire breathes or something,
Did you say lonks? She
Lonks
lonks
him?
him in the suit.
locks him.
This is after
Lonks?
Tony's.
Yeah, lonks.
Right.
Did you need to call Longsmith to get out?
It's a very inside joke.
David ruined his night the other night. We'll get there. Anyway.
This is after that he's been locked in the suit, though, because Tony locks him in the suit, detonates the suit.
Yes.
And then that's what Tony's completely without a suit.
And you think he's dead.
Yeah,
But then she does something similar. She didn't necessarily lock him in the entire suit, but she commands the suit to go in.
No, she doesn't. Tony does that.
She puts
thought she did that as well.
the suit on her arm, and let me dump on that because
Yeah.
how does it not melt right off of her?
Yeah. She doesn't. Tony's the one that does that
I knew
move
that.
and like locks her in the suit.
I thought she did that as well.
No, Pepper can't do that because the suits are all keyed to Tony.
Yeah.
All right. All right, you got me.
So Pepper, she like smacks him with like a giant like steel beam or something like that, right?
Hot steel beam.
Extremists can't melt steel beams.
No. They're useless
I'm
against
so
steel.
disappointed in the effort of that joke. Oh my gosh. Move past it.
So then Killian's gone. It's just Pepper and Tony Stark.
Yep.
And he says, as an act of love and dedication to you, that I'm no longer going to basically hide myself in my suits and continue to block out reality. Why don't you set up protocol?
Clean slate protocol.
Protocol.
Which I want to dump on that. Not the idea, but that apparently he also put in fireworks hidden inside every suit.
Yeah.
Fireworks are in every Iron Man movie.
Yeah, they really are.
Are they in Iron Man 1?
No, are they in Iron Man 1?
I'm sure there's a firework.
There's only 3. But the suit's exploding and just like all sparkly and pretty. I was just like, interesting.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
I feel like since Iron Man 2, we can all agree that when things blow up, sometimes at the end of the movie, they look like fireworks.
That's true.
Colorful, fun.
That's a good point.
It's called the Death Star mindset. I
the
believe.
thing that I don't buy. Again, if we're including that PTSD, anxiety-driven, fear-driven Tony in this movie, who's compulsively creating suits because he's terrified, why would
Get rid of all
that
the
Tony
suits.
build in the clean slate protocol?
I understood that was an afterthought. That was something that he had been working on later. That wasn't something natively in the suits.
Right,
like it
but
was.
at this movie, like
I thought it was after they had been fighting.
no, when he
How do you
leaves,
install that when they're fighting?
when
I thought that was part of what was going on with the computer in the garage at the kid's house.
well, then was he installing house party protocol then?
He
too?
could have been. I mean, honestly, now that
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, that could sort of rectify. It's weird that I'm using this word twice in this episode. It's not a normal word for me, but that could kind of rectify our problem with the house party protocol
If they would have disclosed it a little bit
because
better.
we know
Yeah.
it's connected to more than just the one suit.
But when does Tony learn the lesson to let go of the things he can't control? When does he learn the lesson that necessitates the creation of the clean slate protocol?
Man, I don't know who you think that I am, but I'm not Shane Black.
Well,
That's the thing. See, it's unclear because
It is.
we muddy it so much, and it's couched in this
It absolutely
PTSD,
is.
Avengers-driven, anxiety-related, compulsive building of suits.
Yeah.
well, the other problem that I feel like we get now that we're in phase 2 and we're planned out till like phase 12 is Iron Man's coming back.
Yeah.
For example, I don't want to use a real character, so I'll just say, we know that character X is in Infinity War. So character X, when he dies in this movie, he's not really dead.
Right.
But
which
we can make these assumptions.
I have no
starts getting in
problem
trouble.
using real character names because I don't. So I'll go ahead and preface this. Spoilers for Age of Ultron if you, for some reason, haven't seen that yet. That's why I was so shocked when Quicksilver died.
And he stayed dead.
Yeah, he's gone.
And why spoilers for when is it? Winter Soldier. Fury's not dead.
Yeah.
Because we know he's going to be in Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was this
that
huge
not
thing
frustrate
for. To me, it almost keeps me guessing a little, but when I know they're going to be there, it does frustrate.
Yeah.
Frustrates me.
But with that's why I think that Marvel spends so much time building up a viewer relationship with side characters, because since we know the main characters aren't going anywhere, they can hurt us emotionally
Yeah.
by killing off side characters like Coulson and people like that.
Yeah.
But then with Quicksilver, Quicksilver got me good.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name again?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson. I mean, he's
Yeah.
a pretty big actor.
Yeah.
Like a fantastic actor, in my opinion. And Quicksilver is not a small character. And he was so dope. And then when he died, I was just like blown away.
Yeah. And he stayed dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
far.
anyway, we land this movie. Extremis is removed from Pepper because Tony holds the missing piece. So he gets it removed from her. He gets the arc reactor removed from his chest, which in that moment, the voiceover and everything that he is saying there leads us to believe that arc reactor inside his chest is what's powering the suits. They don't have external power, aside from the ones that Jarvis is controlling. We're to understand that when Tony's in the suit, that arc reactor is what is powering those suits. Just an empty shell that sits on top of that.
Yeah.
And so when he's getting that removed, he's saying, I'm letting go. I said this a million times, letting go of the things I can't control, which means that he is no longer Iron Man once he doesn't have the arc reactor in his chest. And so to me, that scene, you can't have that in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do agree with you. Both blowing up all the suits and taking the arc reactor out.
That's the last Iron Man movie
that we'll ever see.
It just cheapens some things. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think
in the
right.
same way that Batman versus Superman has to be like the last Batman and Superman story.
Yeah.
You know, that can't be like a beginning or like a middle of the road thing. Iron Man removing his arc reactor, destroying all of his suits cannot be
a phase 2 of 4 movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, in the end, looking at it logically, and maybe you guys can, shed some light on this as well. This is the guy who could create his own element to keep the strap metal from going into his heart, but now he can just do surgery and get it out.
Yeah. So, an interesting note about that surgery scene. This was the beginning of Marvel's ongoing partnership with a Chinese film studio. And so those doctors are Chinese actors. And so Marvel essentially handed that scene off over to the studio and said, you guys film this scene, use your people, we'll send you RDJ, like you get all this stuff, we'll put it in the movie so that it would play better in international markets.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Just that one scene?
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly super smart.
Yeah.
Would they get really excited that their actors are in one scene of a movie?
I mean, if you live in a country where you have virtually no representation in movies.
Yeah. But how does that heal the logic of?
It doesn't heal the logic, but it helps us understand
why the scene was in there.
I feel like you could use those actors in another scene.
David,
absolutely.
I don't know who you think I am, but I am not Shane Black.
I'm just wondering why, if it was so easy to have one surgery to get the strap metal removed, why didn't he do that in Iron Man 1 or 2?
Because in the way that it's framed in this, because once he gets that removed, he's powerless. He's no longer in control of things. And so it's because he's been afraid to get it removed.
I felt, but in the second one, he would have done anything to get it removed. It was killing him.
I don't think he would have. I think his number one
he
would rather die than be defenseless. Yeah.
I think that's kind of part of the weakness.
Yeah. And so in this movie, he learns to accept his own weakness and accept the fact that essentially there are things out there that he can't control.
So now it's problematic because anyone can basically be Iron Man? Like anyone can control the suit?
Well, but they obviously already could. Rhodey wears War Machine.
That's what I'm saying. So what's problematic about it other than him just not having the arc reactor?
This is one of the things that I disagree with you a little bit on. I don't see him having the arc reactor or not having the arc reactor as problematic so much as it just seemed premature for him to get rid of it. But I don't think that makes him stop being Iron Man. I don't think that. I don't know that it's necessarily
problematic for character ability, but I do think that it's bad for character motivation.
See, but I think you could also make the argument from the other side of the same coin that removing it and thinking it would solve all his problems and finding out that it didn't is equally as compelling.
Which if that's the direction we need to go, we need that in a movie.
Sure.
We don't get that.
Well, that's just, we haven't really had one that focused on, we haven't had a movie in a while that gave Iron Man alone enough screen time to go anywhere besides overarching conflict.
Then you can't land this movie there.
Yeah, I agree.
Then this landing has to come sometime later.
I agree. Well, obviously we're kind of circling the drain here. So the final scene with him actually talking to Bruce is
that post-credit scene.
So good.
It's really great.
He's falling asleep.
I love it.
And Tony's like, what was the last thing you heard? An elevator in Burn in 99?
I'm not that kind of doctor, man. That's not what I do.
It's really great.
Really is there another?
Nope, just the one.
Is it really?
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For some reason I was thinking there was another. But anyway, that's kind of where that movie lands. And so now's as good a time as any to move into our
rate
time
it.
To rate.
That's the new theme song for it's in phase 2. We're going to do that theme song before every rating piece.
Wow. There's a lot of new bits being introduced that haven't been run by us.
Rate it.
I'm for it.
I'm into it now, actually. That second time really nailed it. Can we go one more? Yeah, I'm definitely in, actually. So here at Two Chunks and a Hunk, we've come up with something that we refer to as the scientific cinema scale. It is a flawless and mathematically perfect rating system.
So much math.
Oh, it's math for days. And so we're going to run you through that rating system very quickly. If this is your first episode, sorry that it's not going to be.
I was just thinking, it's so much math that it's mathy. Sorry.
You mathy for that one.
We mathy.
Mathy for that one, boy. Ooh, that's mathy. Oh, man. Okay. So if this is your first episode, you should start at a different one. But since you're already here, we're going to run you through that scientific cinema scale. The best thing we can ever say about a movie is going to be to own it, don't lend it, and buy that poster. The next best thing that we could say, buy it. Have it in your home permanently. You know what I mean? Right after that, the next best thing that we could say is to rent it. Spend a little Dolores on getting to watch through that one. Right after that, we're going to label that stream it. So what that means is basically don't spend any extra cashish, but if you've got a streaming service that you're already putting some of your major dollars and cents towards, go ahead and tune in. If it's on there, that is. The next best and second worst thing that we can say about a movie is going to be forget it. You are better off if you just pretend that that movie does not exist. And then finally, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie, God hath forsaken us. So I'm going to rate this movie right now. I'll jump right in and say, I'm going to give this movie a confident and hearty rent it. I think that this movie is fun. I think that it is a worthy addition to the MCU as far as stylistic choices go, but maybe not necessarily a great continuation of what has already been set up. But it really is a decent movie, a good watch. And if you like RDJ as Tony, it's more of that. So you might as well jump on in. So I'm confidently landing on rent it.
Confidently landing on rent it as well.
Nice.
I think for action, comedy, and kind of a, like you said, mystery, whodunit. I think it's a fun movie. It's a superhero movie at every turn. Don't think the characterization or the overall arc for Tony is incredible or great by any means.
Sure.
But I think as a superhero movie, as a fun watch, rent it.
Yep.
I'm also going to say rent it.
Whoa!
When you
Yeah,
watch
we
this
read
movie,
like that in a while.
when
Yeah,
you
it's
watch
been a
this
minute.
movie, fast forward to like 30 minutes, watch that, and then watch until the end of the fight on the oil tanker, but don't watch the beginning and the end because those are for the beginning and the end of a different movie.
So yeah, go ahead and pay your money to rent it and then don't watch the whole thing.
Hey, I didn't say it was a good financial decision.
But wow, that's a triple rent it.
Triple rent.
It feels good to be back on the same page.
We
Yeah.
agree with each other again.
It feels nice.
Yeah.
Make sure we do this every episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
We
going to
have
get
agree
real
from now
boring.
on.
It's like, I like that. I didn't, but now I do because you said it. Anyway, before we go, we've got a few shout outs to give, and I'm going to toss this section on over to my good buddy Doge.
I'm better at reading. So we recently launched a website. You can go to any store you want and pick up a free copy of America Online, like a 30-minute demo. And once you get that, go to www.twochunksandahunk.com. And you can find us on our website. So I want to shout out some people who have reached out to us through the website. We were giving away a bespoke wallpaper. It was,
it's so gnarly looking.
It's a really great addition to your mobile device. It's
not good.
So we want to shout out our friend Brady, our friend Colton, and our friend Alden.
Thanks, guys.
You guys emailed us through the website, and that's super rad. So
It is.
if you want to submit pumps and dumps for any movie, also shout out to Jordan Green. You submitted some pumps and dumps for the Avengers, and we forgot to read them.
That's because we're bad at this.
Because we're bad. If you want to contact us through the website, that'll be really freaking cool.
That would be a good time.
Once again, that is twochunksandahunk.com. Wherever books are sold.
It's twochunks.edu. We're a university now.
Don't go to twochunks.edu because I
Or
don't know
do
what
if
that
you
is.
want to.
I don't know what that is.
Hey, believe in yourself. You got this.
You can do anything you want.
www.twochunksandahunk.com.
http://www.twoshank.com/movies.
Well,
David has to poop, so I guess we'll go ahead and sign off for the day.
All right, you guys are great.
bye, David. See ya, man.
Well, the episode's over, but since you're still hanging out here, why don't we toss some information your way?
If you want to be the first to know when we drop new content, like us on Facebook at 2 Chunks and a Hunk. Subscribe to us on YouTube or subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you want a shout out on our next podcast, then #officialchunky.
That's CHUNKY.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're done here, but I guess if you want to stay, I mean, we can just
keep hanging out.
What was your favorite part of that movie that we just saw? Did you like it?
I bet they did. I bet they did.